The great crystal hall of the Lysari Empire was full of guests, but no one smiled. No one cheered. The air felt cold, heavy with silence and hidden judgment. Everyone stood still, watching the girl in the center, Lyra, daughter of House Elmira, once the pride of her kind. Today she looked like a prisoner, not a bride. Her dress was made of soft white silk, but around her wrists were golden cuffs, more like royal chains than jewelry. Her violet eyes stared ahead, refusing to cry. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry, not in front of them, not in front of those who sold her, not in front of the man who bought her. At the end of the long hall stood her father, Lord Elmira. His once proud face was pale with shame. His hands trembled as he held the marriage scroll. A Lysari scribe stood beside him, ready to record the bond. The human groom hadn't arrived yet. "I never agreed to this," Lyra whispered to her cousin, Syria, who stood close behind her. "But you did," Syria replied softly, "when you signed the debt transfer." "That was a signature under pressure." "I know. But the council says the debt is paid only with your hand in marriage. If you run, your father dies. So will you." Lyra's chest tightened. Her family had lost everything. Trade, honor, reputation, all gone after her father's failed investment with Earth's new colonization project. The only way to stop the death sentence on her house was to marry the one who had agreed to pay the debt. A human. It was unthinkable. The Lysari had always looked down on humans. Weak, emotional, primitive. At least that's what Lyra had been, taught since birth. The doors to the hall suddenly opened. All heads turned. A single man entered. He wore no crown, no medals. His outfit was clean but simple, a black suit with silver lining. His face was calm, not proud. His brown hair was neatly tied back, and his eyes, blue, sharp, and strangely kind, met hers directly. He didn't smirk. He didn't glare. He simply nodded, like a friend meeting another in peace. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. He walked down the hall, slow and sure, with a respectful distance. When he reached her, he didn't reach for her hand. Instead, he bent his head. "I'm James Carter," he said softly, in near-perfect Lysari tongue. "I apologize for this arrangement. I didn't ask for it to happen this way." Lyra blinked. "You're not here to claim me?" "No," he said. "I'm here to offer partnership. If you say no, I'll walk away. I only came because I was told you agreed under pressure." She was speechless. Everyone around them stared, unsure what to make of this. Lord Elmira stepped forward, voice shaking. "The contract is signed. You must marry her, human." James turned his head slightly. "I said I would honor the deal, but I won't force anyone. That's not how humans do it, not decent ones." Lyra couldn't understand it. This wasn't how humans were supposed to act. Why wasn't he angry? Why wasn't he claiming power? "You would walk away?" she asked. "Even after paying my family's debt?" James nodded. "Money is just money. I was told you'd be thrown into exile or worse. I paid to save your life. But if you want freedom, I won't take anything from you in return." Lyra looked around. The nobles whispered. The council members frowned. Her father closed his eyes in silence, and for the first time in days, she felt something strange. Not fear, not sadness. It was curiosity. She stepped forward and said, "Let's talk. First, before we sign anything, I want to know who you really are." James smiled softly. "Of course, whatever time you need." The scribe looked confused. "But the ceremony?" "There will be no ceremony without her consent," James said firmly. Silence followed. No one had ever seen a human show such calm strength. Lyra's chains still glittered in the light, but somehow in that moment they felt a little lighter, and deep in her heart something small and quiet whispered, "Maybe this wedding won't be the end. Maybe it was a beginning." Lyra didn't sleep on the first night. Her new room on Earth was too quiet. No distant hum of starships, no guards outside her door, No whispering ladies-in-waiting. Just silence, and the sound of her own confused heartbeat. She stood by the large window staring at Earth's twin moons. The stars here felt brighter, colder. Suddenly the door made a soft chime. Lyra tensed, her hands clenched, her heart raced. Would he come now? To take what the contract allowed? The door slid open. James stood there, but not inside. He stayed at the threshold, one hand behind his back, the other gently holding a steaming mug. I brought tea, he said, his voice warm. If you don't like Earth flavors, I can try something else. Lyra narrowed her eyes. Why do you knock? You don't need my permission. He tilted his head. Yes, I do. You paid for me, she said bitterly. James took a step back, almost as if she'd struck him. I didn't pay for you, he replied. I paid to stop them from hurting you. She didn't respond. He placed the mug carefully just inside the door. I'll leave this here. If you're hungry or need anything, just call. Your room's your own. Then, without waiting for a reply, he turned and walked away. Lyra watched him disappear down the hall, stunned. No command, no threats, no pressure. What kind of human is this? Days passed. James never entered her room without knocking. He spoke gently, asked questions, and never stared too long. He offered to show her Earth cities, but only if she agreed. When she declined, he simply smiled and said, maybe next time. She expected him to become angry, impatient, or cold. But he didn't. He just kept being kind. One evening, Lyra entered the shared living space. James was reading something. On a glowing screen, when he noticed her, he stood. Hi, feeling better today? I don't understand you, she said directly. He raised an eyebrow. What part? This marriage was arranged. You're supposed to own me, command me, use me. James set the screen down and walked to the edge of the room, stopping a safe distance from her. I'm sorry the world taught you that, he said. But humans like me believe marriage isn't about ownership. It's about choice, respect, partnership. Lyra crossed her arms. So why did you agree to marry me? James looked down for a moment, then met her eyes. My brother married a girl from another species. Her family was going to sell her off to pirates. He saved her. She changed his life. I saw what love could look like, even between different worlds. He took a slow breath. Then I heard about you, that they were going to send you to a mine on Zethor 4, alone, for your family's debts, so I stepped in. That's all. You're not trying to win me? No, he said. But if I earn your trust, I'd be honored. Lyra sat down slowly, her mind spinning. This man was either the greatest liar she'd ever met, or the most honest, and in her heart, she felt something shift. The next morning, James was waiting. In the garden, Lyra stepped out, sunlight brushing her pale skin. She looked uncertain. He handed her a datapad. I know you like reading. I found some Lissari books in translation. It's not perfect, but... She stared at the pad. You remembered my favorite authors? She asked, stunned. James gave a small smile. You mentioned them once. I listened. That word, listened, was like a crack in her armor. No one ever listened to Lyra. Not her father. Not the council. Not even the maids. But this strange human did. She looked at him differently now. Not as her captor, not as her buyer, as a man. And that evening, when he stood to leave the room again, she softly said, You may stay, if you like. Just sit. James paused, surprised. Then, with a quiet nod, he sat across from her. They didn't speak much that night, but the silence was no longer empty. It was the start of something new. The Lissari ambassador smiled, but there was poison in his words. She seems comfortable now, he said, sipping wine as his eyes followed Lyra from across the ballroom. But comfort is dangerous. You know that, don't you, Mr. Carter? James didn't smile back. He nodded once, keeping his expression calm. You sound worried. Not worried, the ambassador said softly. Prepared. Lyra couldn't hear them, but she saw the tightness in James's jaw from across the room. Something was wrong. Later that night, Lyra walked past James's study. She never listened before, but this time a soft voice on a call made her pause. She was never meant to survive the marriage, the voice said coldly. She's a political burden. The deal was just to make her vanish quietly. James's voice replied, sharp with anger. No, I won't let her be used. Or killed. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. They wanted her dead, and James was protecting her? She moved away silently, but her mind raced. The marriage wasn't just about money. Someone wanted her erased. Not as a bride, not as a wife, but as a threat. The next morning, Lyra confronted James. You lied to me. James looked up from his console, confused. About what? You said this was just about debt. But there's more. The Lysari don't want me alive, do they? James sighed, closing the screen. I was trying to keep you safe. By keeping me blind? She snapped. No, he said firmly. By keeping you alive. Silence stretched between them like a blade. I overheard your call, she admitted. James didn't flinch. Then you know why I've been cautious. Lyra paced the room. But why protect me? Why risk yourself? Because I've seen what happens when people stay silent, James said. I couldn't save others before, but I can save you. His voice cracked slightly at the end. Lyra stopped pacing. She saw something new in him now. Not just strength, but pain, regret, a past filled with losses he never shared. She sat down. Tell me everything. That night he told her everything. About Earth's shaky alliances with Lysari nobles. About the Council's secret plan to silence royal bloodlines connected to failed politics. About how her father's debt was just the excuse. They wanted your house gone, he said. But the Council couldn't attack directly, so they tried to make your death look like an accident. Lyra sat frozen. My whole life was a lie. Maybe, James said, but the future doesn't have to be. She looked at him, and for the first time not as a human, not as an outsider, but as someone who fought for her when no one else did. 2 days later, a message arrived from her cousin, Saria. It was hidden inside a gift box. A Lysari ornament, beautiful and hollow. Inside, a tiny glowing shard played Saria's secret voice. Lyra, you're in danger. They've set a plan in motion. A ship disguised as a courier will arrive in 3 days. You'll be told it's safe. It's not. They plan to send you to the edges of the void. Forever. Lyra dropped the shard. Her body trembled, but her voice was steady. I won't run, she said. James looked at her. Then we fight. For what? She asked. For your name. For your right to live. For your truth. The grand peace banquet was meant to bring 2 worlds together. Instead, it exploded. Literally. The flames danced behind Lyra as screams echoed in the sky-glass hall. Guards ran. Guests scattered. Smoke filled the air. But Lyra didn't run. She was staring at the blood on her hands. It wasn't hers. It was James's. He had shielded her from the blast with his own body. Just moments earlier, everything had been calm. Lyra had stepped into the Lysari Earth Unity banquet, wearing a pale blue gown that shimmered like starlight. For the first time, she stood at James's side, not as a prisoner, not as a symbol, but as an equal. Everyone noticed. The whispers were louder this time. That's the debt girl. She walks beside him like she belongs. She's becoming dangerous. James leaned closer to her ear during the dinner. They're watching you. I don't care anymore, she replied. Let them see me. He smiled. Good. But that's when the music stopped. That's when the chandelier above them shattered. Not from accident, but from detonation. The moment the explosion hit, James threw his body over hers. Glass and fire tore across his back. He groaned, but didn't. "Let go," Lyra screamed. "James!" His face twisted with pain. "Run!" She held onto him instead. "No!" Guards arrived too late. The smoke cleared just enough for Lyra to see masked figures escaping through the side corridor. Assassins. They hadn't just bombed the feast. They were aiming to kill her. Later, in the medical bay, James lay unconscious. Bandages wrapped around his back and shoulder. Machines beeped softly. Lyra sat beside him, holding his hand tightly. Her tears fell silently, until her cousin Saria entered. "They'll blame Earth for this," Saria warned, "and they'll say you were the target." "They were right," Lyra whispered. "What will you do now?" Lyra stood. "I'll do what my enemies never expected," she said. "I'll speak." 3 days later, Lyra stood in the Hall of Accord, facing both Earth and Lysari Council delegates. She wore no royal dress, no makeup, only a plain dark cloak and truth in her voice. "This marriage was never about unity," she said boldly. "It was about silence, about erasing a family line, about selling daughters like debt." Gasps echoed. "But I am not for sale anymore." Cameras rolled. Reporters watched. Billions across the galaxy tuned in. Lyra continued. "James Carter paid my family's debt, not to own me, but to protect me. When the hall exploded, he didn't run, he shielded me, took the pain meant for me." She raised a data crystal. "This contains every message, every plan, every proof of the Council's betrayal. They wanted me dead, and they nearly succeeded." Council members stood in outrage. "Lies!" But Lyra stood taller. "Then test my words. Run the files. Call witnesses. Or are you afraid of truth?" That night, as the Galactic Court debated, Lyra returned to the hospital. James was awake. "Barely." "You stood up for yourself?" he whispered. "I stood up for us," she said. His hand found hers. "You're not afraid anymore." She shook her head. "I was never afraid of you, only of being forgotten." James looked into her eyes. "Then let's make them remember you." Midnight fell over Earth's capital, quiet and cold. But inside the human diplomat's villa, Lyra wasn't sleeping. She was preparing for war, not with weapons, not with armies, but with truth, evidence, and for the first time in her life, her voice. The assassination attempt had changed everything. She no longer feared dying. She feared being silent. In a dim-lit study, Lyra stood in front of a glowing screen. Her hands moved quickly over data pads, unlocking sealed files, slicing through firewalls left behind by her father's disgraced advisors. With Saria's help, she found communications, messages between Lysari lords planning her disappearance, payments made to hired killers, secret contracts never meant to be seen. Her fingers trembled as she downloaded them all. James, still, weak from his injuries, watched from a chair nearby. "You're not the same girl I met in that crystal hall," he said softly. Lyra didn't look away from the screen. "Good. That girl was waiting to be saved." She turned to face him. "This one saves herself." The next morning, her voice echoed across the galaxy. Lyra appeared live in a press conference, uninvited, unapproved, and completely unstoppable. "No more secrets," she declared, standing beneath the flags of 2 worlds. "No more traded daughters. No more quiet deaths." Behind her, the holograms played the damning messages. Lords' voices, council members' threats, schemes in their own words. Her people were stunned. The galactic channels exploded in panic and debate. One headline read, "Alien Bride Becomes Whistleblower, Earth and Lysari Rocked by Scandal." Another, "She was sold for a debt. Now she's exposing a dynasty." That night they came for her, black-cloaked, soldiers, silent, ruthless. They broke through the villa's gate with stealth tech and plasma blades, thinking she'd be asleep, but they didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect her. Lyra met them in the corridor, unarmed, eyes blazing. Behind her, James stood on shaky legs holding an Earth-made defense shield. "You'll have to get through me first," he said. One soldier aimed his weapon, but Lyra spoke first. "Try it. And your face will be on every star channel tomorrow." The soldier hesitated. "Who do you think owns the news feeds now?" she continued. "Every citizen watching me, every human, every Lysari, knows your names. If I disappear, the whole galaxy will know who to blame." They backed away, not because of weapons, but because of exposure, and because, for the first time, she wasn't a victim in hiding. She was a force in the light. Later, as the villa calmed, Lyra sat beside James again. She was no longer just his bride. She was something else now, stronger, sharper. "You could have run," he said. "I almost did," she admitted. "But then I remembered how it felt to be voiceless." She turned to him, eyes steady. "I won't feel that again." James smiled. "You're not just brave, you're dangerous now." "Good," she said. "Dangerous women change galaxies." Midnight fell over Earth's capital, quiet and cold. But inside the human diplomat's villa, Lyra wasn't sleeping. She was preparing for war, not with weapons, not with armies, but with truth, evidence, and for the first time in her life, her voice. The assassination attempt had changed everything. She no longer feared dying. She feared being silent. In a dim-lit study, Lyra stood in front of a glowing screen. Her hands moved quickly over data pads, unlocking sealed files, slicing through firewalls left behind by her father's disgraced advisors. With Syria's help, she found communications, messages between Lysari lords planning her disappearance, payments made to hired killers, secret contracts never meant to be seen. Her fingers trembled as she downloaded them all. James, still, weak from his injuries, watched from a chair nearby. "You're not the same girl I met in that crystal hall," he said softly. Lyra didn't look away from the screen. "Good. That girl was waiting to be saved." She turned to face him. "This one saves herself." The next morning, her voice echoed across the galaxy. Lyra appeared live in a press conference, uninvited, unapproved, and completely unstoppable. "No more secrets," she declared, standing beneath the flags of two worlds. "No more traded daughters. No more quiet deaths." Behind her, the holograms played the damning messages. Lords' voices, council members' threats, schemes in their own words. Her people were stunned. The galactic channels exploded in panic and debate. One headline read, "Alien Bride Becomes Whistleblower, Earth and Lysari Rocked by Scandal." Another, "She was sold for a debt. Now she's exposing a dynasty." That night they came for her, black-cloaked, soldiers, silent, ruthless. They broke through the villa's gate with stealth tech and plasma blades, thinking she'd be asleep, but they didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect her. Lyra met them in the corridor, unarmed, eyes blazing. Behind her, James stood on shaky legs holding an Earth-made defense shield. "You'll have to get through me first," he said. One soldier aimed his weapon, but Lyra spoke first. "Try it. And your face will be on every star channel tomorrow." The soldier hesitated. "Who do you think owns the news feeds now?" she continued. "Every citizen watching me, every human, every Lysari, knows your names. If I disappear, the whole galaxy will know who to blame." They backed away, not because of weapons, but because of exposure, and because, for the first time, she wasn't a victim in hiding. She was a force in the light. Later, as the villa calmed, Lyra sat beside James again. She was no longer just his bride. She was something else now, stronger, sharper. "You could have run," he said. "I almost did," she admitted. "But then I remembered how it felt to be voiceless." She turned to him, eyes steady. "I won't feel that again." James smiled. "You're not just brave, you're dangerous now." "Good," she said. "Dangerous women change galaxies." The verdict was broadcast to every planet that signed the Galactic Accord. Billions watched in silence. Some held their breath. Some hoped for justice. Others feared exposure. But Lyra stood tall. Inside the grand tribunal, the lead judge read from the glowing verdict scroll. His voice was steady, but everyone could feel the weight of the moment. After reviewing all evidence, testimonies, and recorded transmissions, this court finds the High Lysari Council guilty of conspiracy, attempted assassination, and violation of interspecies law. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Lyra did not move. She only watched as her enemies lowered their heads, not from honor, but from defeat. The judge turned to her. Lyra of House Elmira, you are hereby granted full legal independence. Your debts are nullified. Your marriage is declared valid by consent. You are free to remain in the union, or leave. A long silence followed. Even James looked uncertain. What would she do now, when every chain had finally broken? Lyra stepped forward. Her voice, steady and clear, rang through the hall. I choose to stay. The crowd buzzed. She turned toward James. Not because I owe him, not because I was forced, but because somewhere between fear and fire, I found someone who never treated me like a price. She smiled. I found my home. The judge gave a slow nod. So noted. The gavel fell. Verdict final. Outside, the galaxy reacted. News feeds overflowed. Alien bride frees herself and chooses love. Council collapses as truth wins. From debt to devotion. How one girl changed two worlds. In schools, children spoke her name with pride. In politics, her story became a symbol of change. Across stars, young girls whispered, if Lyra could speak, so can I. Back on Earth, weeks later, the villa was quiet again. James sat on the balcony, sipping tea. Lyra walked up behind him, wearing no crown, no council robes, just a soft smile and wind in her hair. He looked up. You didn't go back to Lysari? She sat beside him. Why would I? My future's here. He smiled. With me? With us, she said. We're not a deal anymore. We're a choice. James leaned closer. And if I asked, not as your husband by law, but as the man who fell for your fire, would you choose to stay forever? Lyra didn't answer with words. She kissed him. Under Earth's twin moons, with no contracts, no cameras, no chains, just two hearts that met in the ashes and rebuilt something beautiful together.